Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on live stream music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, coming again today, you're very, very welcome. I had it great to see everybody here. I trust you enjoyed my last video on Aussie boy band that can play their own instruments at 5 Seconds of Summer. Through their song Amnesia, we looked at that experience. So I trust you found that one encouraging. We're going from there to an absolute tower. Oh my God, it does not get much bigger than this guy in film score composing. This guy is behind some of the most recognizable themes in cinematic history. This guy has received the second most Oscar nominations of all time. And the latest one, when he was 92 years old, only beaten by Walt Disney. So there we go. We're talking about an absolute legend. Oh my goodness, legend does not even cut it today of film scoring. And many of the movies that I'm going to mention today are absolutely huge because of this guy. But his story started in 1932 in Queens, New York City. His career has spanned 7 decades, and as I've said, some of the most recognizable scores. He grew up in a musical family, which you probably would have expected. And in 1948, he moved with his family to Los Angeles. He actually was a pretty clever student, and he decided to study composition privately. That's how keen he was to actually do this thing, and so to get one-on-one tutoring is pretty good. He then joined Juilliard, and he was going to actually be a concert pianist, but then he realised actually he could write better than he could play, so he decided to actually leave Juilliard after a little bit of time. The guy we're talking about, John Williams. We have a lot to thank John for. Oh my goodness. He started doing some arranging and composing from film studios, including the score of the iconic Breakfast at Tiffany's, getting together with Henry Mancini, who wrote Moon River. And he started to get well known at that point. It's around that time too, he did do a few solo jazz albums. But it was then it was discovered that actually, if I can assign a little bit of a motive to a character, I'm going to be able to bring that character to life even more. And so this is one of his trademarks, is that I'm going to get onto some of those things in a minute. 1965, if you were around in 1965, you might remember a little while ago on Netflix, Lost in Space. If you haven't seen that series, if you like science fiction, first of all, oh my God, they did it so well. It was such a fantastically good portrayal of that particular series. Of course, in 1965, we didn't have anywhere near the special effects we had then. But 1965 to 68, Lost in Space is just one of these iconic TV shows that pretty well has had a cult following ever since. The funny thing about this particular show is that very rarely were they actually in space. Most of the time they were on some planet trying to get off it. Of course, we've got Dr. Zachary Smith, and we've got the Robinson family, and we've got the robot, and we've got all sorts of interesting things that are happening. So I thought, and Johnny Williams, as the credits are here, wrote the theme song to Lost in Space. I thought I'd better get the opening credits to that one. He started to realise that because of his kind of dramatic way of composing, he was starting to get into some really dramatic, almost disaster movies. But the musical Fiddler on the Roof, 1971, absolutely stunning songs in that one, all about a Jewish community on the eve of the Second World War. A very incredible movie, that one. 1972, we had the Poseidon Adventure. 1974, The Towering Inferno, and Earthquake. And so John Williams is really truly establishing himself as a sought-after composer. But it was not going to end there. It was only going to get better and better. Because it was around 1974 that he met Steven Spielberg. Now we know how iconic Steven Spielberg is, and around 1975 when he was getting himself going to, out came the movie Jaws. Now Jaws was all about a shark that created a lot of havoc, actually a lot of havoc, and the theme, what John Williams decided to do to try and create that feeling of suspense when he was just about to eat somebody. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Now, when Steven Spielberg heard this, he said, "What, you got to be joking?" But it grew on him, and John Williams would go down the history of having one of the most incredible pieces with just 2 notes. And in 1977, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Ba 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 bum. Ba 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 bum. And it was that theme that actually the aliens communicated with the human race. So, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, absolutely stunning movie, that one. In 1977 also. Now, many of you who are around there will know where I'm going here with this next iconic. Now, when we talk about movies, it does not get much more influential than this one. I remember as a kid seeing the theatre poster, or it's all we had. When we were growing up, no trailers, we had this black scene. We have this black hooded character with this big black bally thing in the background, and we had these 2 flaming kind of swordy things in the front, and that's all we had to go on for the iconic Star Wars. Now, Star Wars is a universal, eternal phenomenon. Let's face it, it's been absolutely, influential in many, many ways for its effects. George Lucas, of course, who was behind Star Wars, didn't quite get the reach he was hoping for with the first movie, but because of the deal he had on merchandising, he was able to fund the next movie, Empire Strikes Back, where it had a lot more theatrical control. And that was the movie where the bombshell dropped. Luke, I am your father. Nobody saw that coming. But going back to the first movie, when you went in and you sat down and you thought, I have no idea what's about to happen. By the way, it's also around the same time that the Battlestar Galactica movie came out. So we were kind of in this is the original Battlestar Galactica, by the way. We're starting to get into some pretty big looking stuff on screen. So it goes black, and then the words come up, in a galaxy far, far away. Then BAM! And the trumpet sound and everything goes, and then you see these words drifting onto the distance, showing the story where it is up to at that point. When you first hear that initial chord, you jump out of your seat because you just weren't expecting it. It's really what's saying, hey guys, this is a very influential movie coming out. Pay attention. And the music well and truly captured the essence of what Star Wars was. It was just words cannot describe for someone who was around when it came out. I was 12 years old to see the iconicness of this movie. And so we better get some Star Wars stuff in now, hey? He was involved in the first 3. Now, for the purists out there, all right, when I say the first 3, I'm waiting for the comments below, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Now, we didn't think there was going to be any other movies after the first one because, the Death Star got blown up. It all kind of finished beautifully. But sure enough, another movie, of course, the Empire had to have their bit. And then there had to be Luke and his dad having a reckoning as well. Who would have thought there'd be another 6 after the first 3? But, when I talk about the first 3 movies, chronologically speaking, the episodes 4, 5, and 6. Now, George Lucas was involved in, he was, but also John Williams, and he was involved in some composing of the first movies as well. So we've got the opening sequence. You know, imagine you didn't even know that's what Star Wars was, and you're just waiting to see what happens next when you get startled by this big massive chord. So it's so exciting to get start like this one. Bam! It's here. Now, of course, we talk about motifs, and you know, ba 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 ba. We all know who's coming with that. We know it's Darth Vader, and we also know that it's the Imperial and incredible sized spaceships those guys had. They really were a force to be reckoned with. Just a bit of a shame that the stormtroopers kind of didn't put up much of a fight, but you know, and who remembers that scene where the stormtrooper bangs his head as he's walking through? But Empire Strike, we got the empirical theme as well, and I thought, hey, what the hell? If you think about Star Wars, you think about the blowing up of the Death Star, don't you? So, not a problem according to the Imperials, but yep, there's a slight little problem here, and sure enough, Luke, using the Force, does all he can to actually blow up the Death Star. Such an iconic scene in cinematic history right there. Let's not forget episode, I think, 3.5 as well, Rogue One. That's where they just got the plans to the Death Star in the first place. That was a pretty important movie in the scheme of things well. But George Lucas, who was introduced to John Williams by Steven Spielberg, he created an absolute masterpiece with Star Wars. In 1978, Superman. Now, superhero movies weren't much of a thing back then. We didn't have the darkness of Marvel, the darkness of the Dark Knight, and of the Batman movies. It was a bit lighter and happier back in those days. Christopher Reeve, of course, who played Superman and played it really, really well. Of course, his tragic accident off a horse and then his death. He really did endear himself to the world. And I do remember Superman coming out as well, and the number of movies that came out after that. Superman movies were actually done really, really well. Of course, John Williams was asked to write the theme to Superman, the Superman March. So we've got a bit of a compilation clip of that theme for you. Keep going. We're going to just keep going with the iconic themes and the George Lucas, John Williams partnership. We've got Raiders of the Lost Ark. Of course, Harrison Ford played that key role. Of course, he was also Han Solo in Star Wars. But, you know, we've got some iconic music in Raiders of the Lost Ark as well. We've got a clip of, you know, him escaping the Boulder and all the rest of the stuff. When you think Raiders of the Lost Ark, you think of that scene. We've also got a live version. So we've got a live version of the orchestra playing that particular theme as well. Lots of notes here today. Jurassic Park, another one. You know, when Jurassic Park came out, oh my goodness, these dinosaurs look so amazingly real. And so he composed the music to Jurassic Park. He also went into darker stuff. Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks, absolutely iconic war movie, that one. Move forward to 2002, Catch Me If You Can. So this is a bit of a lighter movie. Here we've got Leonardo DiCaprio in the role of one of the world's best con men, going all around the world, faking pilots and teachers and all sorts of bits and pieces. This particular movie required a slightly different theme for John Williams, and he sort of had that captured the playfulness of Catch Me If You Can. So we've got a bit of a movie clip of Catch Me, a movie behind. 2005, War of the Worlds. Now, I did Jeff Wayne a little while ago who came up with War of the Worlds. So there's been a couple of movies. There was a movie back in the 50s. Then we had Tom Cruise come out in 2005. It was good to see the legs come back on The Martians. And here we've got a movie clip from 2005, War of the Worlds. John Williams composed that as well. But it does not end there. Going back earlier, 2001, we know the absolute phenomenon that Harry Potter has been. And when it was announced that there were going to be movies based on the books, the world just went into absolute meltdown at that point. Hedwig's theme, which is one of the most recognisable themes in Harry Potter, John Williams wrote that one as well. So we've got a live version of that one. We've also got a scene from the movie itself. You know, it's funny how a character such as Hedwig really became the narrator very much of the Harry Potter story. So I've got to get that one in there as well. John Williams, one of the most influential film score composers of all time. 5 Academy Awards, 6 Emmy Awards, 4 Golden Globes Awards, 26 Grammy Awards, 7 British Film Awards. Interestingly, he was married from 1956 until his wife died in 1974, so it's a pretty amazing love story there. But to actually talk about his discography, it's just too hard. It goes from 1954 to 2024. I'll just wait the Wikipedia entry below, because there's just too much to talk about there. So if you want to see the breadth and influence of this guy, just click on that link below. So the links to those 14 clips are in the description below. Some of the most iconic music themes of all time are in that list. So you got to give him a bit of a go, John Williams, because he's so significant. So I've got 14 clips in the description below. And we've also included the last video from 5 Seconds of Summer. So if you want to recap on them, feel free. Well, if this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, or you've come back for another one, how great to see everybody here. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to get on to Joshua Caddison. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.